Hey everyone, welcome to the official unboxing video for the TROPO Precipitation Gauge by us here at Climalytic Instruments. For those of you who don't know, the TROPO is a professional 4-inch diameter rain gauge that has been approved by CoCoRaHS, and in this video, I'll be showing you exactly what you get in the box, and I'll show you how to use a rain gauge like this. So, when you get your TROPO, it will come in a box like this. You can easily open it from the side, like so. And inside the box, we have, of course, the gauge itself. There's also a hardware bag. A cleaning brush is included, and an instruction manual, which you can also download online. So, starting with the TROPO gauge itself, on the back we have the removable handle. And on the top, of course, is the cap. And then we have the inner cylinder and the outer cylinder. The outer cylinder has estimated markings in both inches and millimeters. There are textured grips on the side to help hold the gauge when it's icy and slippery. The bracket for mounting is on the back. And there's a pour spout on the top, which makes decanting the gauge easier. Also on the outer cylinder is a beveled seat at the bottom, which allows the inner cylinder to easily fall into place right where it needs to be. Now, as for the inner cylinder itself, this tube has both inches and millimeters, inches to a resolution of the 100th of an inch, and millimeters to a resolution of a 1/5 of a millimeter. At the top, we have a funnel opening, which allows for easier decanting from the outer cylinder into the inner cylinder. Here, you can see the cutout at the top, which allows water to overflow from the inner cylinder into the outer cylinder. And at the bottom of the inner cylinder, there is a stabilizing base, which prevents it from falling over when you're setting it down. The cap has extra tall walls on the sides to prevent water from splashing out. And in the middle, you can see the funnel, which redirects water from the top opening into the inner cylinder underneath. The cap also snaps onto the top of the outer cylinder to prevent it from blowing off in strong wind. Alright, so back to this hardware bag. I'm going to open this up and show you everything inside. First, we have 8 bird deterrent rods. These are optional, and be careful with these. But if you want to use them, they can help prevent birds from sitting atop your rain gauge. There are 8 sockets on the top of the cap where you can install these just by hand, like so. I'll go ahead and install all 8. There we go. Now these are pretty snug, so they won't fall out. But at the same time, if you ever want to remove them in the future, they're pretty easy to just take out by hand. Now, if you do have the bird rods installed on your cap, you do have to be extra careful, especially when taking the cap off of the outer tube. We recommend placing 2 thumbs under the spout and then just gently pressing up to remove the cap. That way it can come off safely. What you want to avoid doing is just pulling straight up, because then you could injure yourself. Back to things in the hardware bag. This is the universal mounting bracket. This is what you'll use when you want to mount your TROPO to a pole or a post, like so. And I'll show you how to install this in just a second. You'll also get 2 zip ties, an adhesive strip, 2 screws, and a bubble level. Okay, so to install the mounting bracket onto a pole, first stick the adhesive strip onto the back of the mounting bracket like so, such that this felt surface here can add more friction between the bracket and the pole, which can help prevent it from sliding up and down. Then you'll take the 2 zip ties, feed them through the bracket, and then wrap the zip ties around the pole and tighten them. Now, to install the mounting bracket onto a wooden post, just position the bracket where you want it, drill a pilot hole through the bottom hole, and then with a screwdriver, gently screw in one of the screws through the bottom hole, at which point you can place the bubble level on top and swivel the bracket back and forth until it is centered, at which point you can drill the top pilot hole and then screw in the top screw. So that does it for everything in the hardware bag, although I did want to quickly demonstrate how to use the included cleaning brush. So this is really nice because of how long the brush is. It makes it really easy to clean out the inside of the inner tube, just like so. It won't scratch the inside, and it's long enough to reach all the way to the bottom, which makes it really convenient. I also wanted to really quickly show how to use the handle exactly. So when you unmount your rain gauge, that's when you can switch to the handle. And this isn't required, but it does make handling the gauge a lot easier, especially if it's filled with a lot of water. Plus it makes decanting a lot easier as well. So the unboxing portion of this video is finished, but I did want to do a quick review on exactly how to use a dual cylinder rain gauge like this, just in case you haven't done this before. So it's actually quite simple. Basically, this inner cylinder has been calibrated to accurately magnify 1 inch of water based on the 4-inch diameter catchment opening on this cap. And we need to magnify the water because the precision is so high on this inner cylinder. This is measuring here to the 100th of an inch or the 5th of a millimeter, which is a very high resolution. If we were to try and read that on an outer tube like this, the water level would be so difficult to distinguish that we wouldn't be able to read at this level of precision. Now, the question is, what happens if more than 1 inch of rain falls? Well, there is a cutout at the top of the inner cylinder that allows water to overflow. So if more than 1 inch of rain falls, then water will overflow from the inner cylinder into the outer cylinder, at which point it can be collected here. Now, as you can see, there are estimated markings on the outside of the outer cylinder, but there are a couple of caveats here. The first is that the inner tube must be installed for these to be accurate, because let's say that water has filled up to this 2-inch mark on the outer cylinder. Well, that's accounting for the 1 inch that is already in the inner cylinder. It's also accounting for the water that's displaced by the inner cylinder. So when you're using these outer estimated markings, make sure that the inner cylinder is inside of the gauge. Now, also, these do not have a very high precision. You can see here that this only has a resolution of 0.5 inches, and on this side we only have a resolution of 10 millimeters. Now, this is not good enough if you're reporting to a program like CoCoRaHS. They need the high precision data that you acquire from the inner cylinder. And so the question now becomes, what happens when you have water that has overflowed into the outer cylinder and you don't want to just take an estimated reading? Well, if there's water in the outer cylinder, then we'll have to decant it into the inner cylinder. So there will already be 1 inch of water in the inner cylinder, so we can take note of that. And then we'll pour out the water here. We can then pour the water, or decant it, from the outer cylinder into the inner cylinder. And we'll repeat that process, adding up our total rainfall measurement each time until all the water in the outer tube has been accounted for. So the TROPO is a rain gauge, but it is also a snow gauge. Now this won't measure snow depth, but you can measure snow water equivalent, which is basically the amount of water in the snow. Now to do this, you're going to want to remove the cap and remove the inner cylinder, and then just leave the outer cylinder outside to collect snowfall. And then when you go to take your reading, take the outer cylinder inside with you and let the snow inside of it melt, at which point you can decant the melted snow from the outer cylinder into the inner cylinder and take your reading. That reading will be the snow water equivalent, or SWE. So if you don't want to wait for the snow to melt in the outer cylinder, what you can also do is measure some water in the inner cylinder and then pour it in to mix it with the snow. That will help the snow melt a lot faster, at which point you can then decant back into the inner cylinder, take your reading, and subtract the amount of water that you added in. That difference will be your snow water equivalent measurement. And with that, we've come to the end of this video. If you have any questions, feel free to just let us know and we'll get back to you. If you want to buy a TROPO gauge, just visit the Climalytic store. We'll leave a link in the description. And yeah, thank you so much for watching.